So today is World Mental Health Day, and it is a day to raise awareness of such illnesses like depression, bipolar, anxiety, schizophrenia, and for people such as myself who suffer with these many illnesses to stand up to them and to also share with the world our own experiences and hopefully to help people understand what it is like to suffer and live with these illnesses on a day-to-day basis. So for me personally, I'm going to do a short video on my recent battle with depression and my ongoing battle with depression. But I do want to make it clear from the outset that, like I say, this is my own personal battle with this mental illness. This is not an overview of depression. There will be other people out there who suffer in different forms and deal with it differently, because there are so many different forms of depression, different severities. Mine is quite mild, other people are a lot more severe and suffer a lot more. That is the harsh reality of this awful sort of illness. So I don't want people watching this and thinking that this is depression in a nutshell. This is just my own personal sort of dealings with the illness. So I suppose the best place to start is saying my own circumstances, really. I've been suffering with depression now. Well, I've been suffering with it officially for about 4 or 5 months, as in that's when I realised I was suffering with depression and I went to the doctors about it. But more realistically, looking back, it's probably been well over a year that I feel depression has sort of been affecting my life. I say that because for me depression is not something that just suddenly is there and you have depression. Like I say, that's for me personally. I know for other people, there can be something to trigger it, whether it be, a sudden or tragic death in the family, losing a loved one or being made redundant at work, things like that. But for a lot of people, and for me anyway, I feel it is sort of an illness that attaches itself onto you at some point, whether that be from a trigger that you haven't realised yourself, or whether it's just something that happens, and then it can take a while for you to realise that you have it. And for me anyway, that's how I feel it's gone. As I say, about 4 or 5 months ago, when I was sort of getting really low, I sort of did some reading up and watching some videos here on YouTube, and I kind of made a self-diagnosis really of depression, and then made that hard, and it is a hard decision to go to the doctors when you think you may be depressed, because once you go to the doctors, you almost, although you want help, you don't want them to say it, because then you feel you have that medical tag on you, or that medical stamp of mental illness, which is not nice really. But if you want help, then it's something you have to do. And I urge anyone out there who is watching this, who feels like they may be struggling but are scared to speak out or scared to go to your doctors, then please go and do it, because it will be one of the best decisions you make. I know it's scary, but it's something you have to do if you want to go forward in your life. So I had a discussion with my doctor, and it was sort of agreed that I had a mild form of depression, and then something happened in my life which was kind of bad luck, I suppose, of suffering a breakup of a long-term relationship just a couple of weeks after going to the doctors. So obviously that didn't really help in matters. But moving on since then, I am now on antidepressant tablets, the citalopram ones. So I'm 3 weeks into these. So I'm really just kind of discovering what effect they're having. Obviously there's no cure for depression. There's only ways of sort of dealing with it and battling it. So with these tablets for the first week, I felt that things for some reason were starting to get better, and I told myself it wasn't going to be some sort of miracle drug, but certainly in that first week, even my parents said I started coming out of this shell that I kind of built around myself. I was starting to talk a little bit more. But then again, the past 2 weeks, that has kind of gone downhill a bit. And it's become certainly less and less feeling like that. Now, I don't want that, people to be watching this thinking, oh, well, the tablets don't work. Tablets have different effects on different people. I may need a different dosage, or I just may need a bit more time on them. I was scared of wanting to go onto tablets because I don't want to get to a point where I'm literally just dependent on them for getting through every day, basically, and going through the rest of my life. But I came to a realisation that it's something that I need to do if I do want to make any steps forward in my life. And it's not necessarily that if once you get on them and it does help, that you will be on them for a lifetime. I've spoken to people on Twitter who it had helped, and they've got to a stage where they just took them when they felt they needed them, or when they felt they needed a pick-up. It wasn't a daily thing. So one of the questions that can often be asked of someone suffering with depression is, what is it you are depressed about? Why are you depressed? Which, at first, is really annoying to hear and sounds like a really naive question. But I know when people are asking that, they're not meaning it in a hurtful way, or meaning it in a naive way. It is the simple fact that people just don't understand mental illness enough, because there's not really sort of enough information out there about it, and this is the whole point of World Mental Health Day. So there is no, for me anyway, there is no real answer to the question, why are you depressed, and what are you depressed about? Like I mentioned before, the word triggers. For me personally, it's not been one trigger. It may have been several, but there's nothing I can pinpoint it on. The fact that I haven't been able to find any solid work since leaving university, I believe that has had an effect. Obviously, the breakup of my relationship, that has had a more recent effect on things. But just life in general, and just, see, this is the thing, for me, the depression has taken over my life, so I can't pinpoint or put any triggers on things. For me, it's just something I have. It's not something I'm depressed about. And another thing with depression, and people have this idea about, is that people expect people to be depressed 24/7. They expect you to be feeling down and depressed and stuff for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it doesn't work like that. You have your up days and you have your down days, or I do anyway. So, for today is an up day, and the best example of that is the fact I'm doing this video. If I was having a really bad day today, I wouldn't be anywhere near this camera. I'd probably still be hiding myself away in my bed, getting myself into a sort of shell, just watching TV or something, and wanting to stay away from the world. This is something I will get onto in a bit. But you do have your up days, and like I say, today is a day where I feel I can talk openly to people, I can have a laugh with people, and it doesn't last for the full day. I woke up this morning not knowing if I was going to do this video because I wasn't feeling 100%, but that does pick up. But equally, like I say, you do have those down days as well, which recently for me there's been a lot more down days than there have been up days. But people need to understand that this isn't a 24/7 thing, 7 days a week kind of disease. And again, I'm sure for some poor people out there that is the case, and that's when you start getting to the more severe side of depression. And again, another sort of misconception is, and I think a lot of young people, because for me there's a lack of information in schools about depression. And I know when I was growing up anyway, if someone mentioned depression, I automatically thought that meant that they were suicidal. And I know there's a lot of people out there that will still think that now. Now for me, I have never had any suicidal thoughts, and I'm not saying that that's something that won't happen in the future if things were to get worse, But for a lot of people, depression isn't about being suicidal and wanting to take your own life. For some poor souls out there, that unfortunately is with them too many times a day. But like, there's so many different forms out there, and people need to realise that it isn't just one rule with depression, and that it is a constant thing. You know, there's so many different ways of feeling it. So for me, like I say, I have up days and I have down days, and on the down days it is a feeling of, the words I would sort of use to describe how I feel a lot of the time would be alone. I feel uninterested. I feel unmotivated. I feel very worthless. I feel very stuck, sort of isolated. But beyond everything, I feel frustrated. And just sort of go through a few of those words and the reasons why I feel like that. Obviously, I think feeling alone is kind of self-explanatory. But you know, even though you have your family around you, you can have friends around you supporting you, it doesn't matter sometimes what people may say to you or try to sort of pick you up. Although sometimes it does help, a lot of the times it has no impact on how I'm feeling during the day, and that's frustrating because, you know, I'll have my parents saying things to me which I can be really wanting to agree with, but my brain is saying, no, you're not going to be feeling better, or things are, you know, there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. It's a very sort of blinkered vision of things aren't going to get better. And those are on the really, really bad days. And the really frustrating thing is feeling uninterested in certain activities that I've always loved doing. So, you know, going out and going for walks, watching certain TV programs, watching DVDs, playing video games. Over these past 6 months especially, I've just lost complete interest in doing things like that, which is absolutely crazy. You know, a year ago, if GTA Grand Theft Auto 5 would have come out a year ago and it would have come through the door, I would have been playing that pretty much non-stop and absolutely loving it. But I mean, it came out the other week and I've hardly played on the game, which is very, very unlike me. And that, like I say, that sort of comes into other aspects of my life, and it's really, really frustrating waking up in the morning after making plans the day before to do something or watch something, and then not wanting to do it and feeling like you're not able to do it. It's just being uninterested and unmotivated and knowing that nothing can change how you're feeling about that. And that's where the word frustration comes into it, because you just feel locked inside yourself, and it is a really, really awful feeling like you're just not wanting to move for the rest of the day, or just to be stuck in your bedroom. And that's where the, you know, loneliness comes in, because you just shut yourself away from everything. And I know there'll be people watching this, and I know there's people out there that think, well, that just sounds like you're being a bit lazy, really. And sometimes it is frustrating, because it does feel like you're just being lazy, but it is so much more than that. It's wanting inside, deep inside you, to do something, but your brain is just stopping you from doing that. And, you know, like I say, on a down day, there would be no chance in hell, no matter how much inside I would be wanting to do this video, there is no way I would be able to do this video, because my brain would be like, no, you're not doing that, you're going to fail, you're going to let people down. And that brings me on to one of the main things that you feel, well, I feel as depressive, and I know speaking to other people and hearing other people's thoughts, that people suffer with depression feel like they are worthless, and that no matter what they do in life, it's just always going to fail, and you're going to let people down. And again, that is an awful feeling to have. You know, whenever I do a video for YouTube, I'm never ever 100% happy with something that I do. I always feel like I've failed someone out there who's not going to like it, and failing myself and letting myself down in some of the things that I do in life. And then that then goes on to the work issue with me and getting back into work. I feel like nothing I get into I will be able to do well, which obviously holds you back, which is something that, you know, I don't want to happen, but it's something that feels it's out of my control and beyond my control. And again, it goes back to that word frustration. You just feel completely shut off from the rest of the world in a way, and you know that nothing's going to get better. So I mean, that's how you feel on a really bad day. I mean, you have your up and down days where you kind of go from one feeling to another. But I'd say on a day-to-day basis, you know, I go through all those feelings at least once. And definitely some days, you know, it can be a lot more than that. I think at the end of the day, a lot of people think I'm sort of waffling at this point, but it is such a difficult thing to put across to people and feelings to properly describe, and that's the problem with mental health. And I think that's the reason why there's not enough information out there for people to sort of know and to understand how people go through things. And this is the only way, you know, speaking to a camp, you know, I don't think I would be able to speak like this to a room full of people about my feelings. You know, just speaking alone in my room to a camera is the only way I can really convey my true feelings across. And it's not an easy thing to live with. It's one of the hardest things that I've had to go through in my life. Not knowing what to expect next from myself, not knowing how I'm going to feel, not even on a day-to-day basis, on a minute-to-minute basis. It can be so quick in how your feelings change on things, and there can be mini triggers throughout a day which several years ago or a year ago that just wouldn't have any sort of real effect on my day. But now I feel like I have to be very careful in what I do, very careful in things that I read during the day, whether it be on social media or on the internet, or see things on the news. Just normal conversations with people, you know, it can only take just one little thing, and it feels like I don't want people to be, you know, stepping around eggshells with me. It more feels like I need to be the one spotting where there may be a trigger. That seems to be quite a word I'm using a lot, and I think it's all really coming to me during talking in this video that how much how big a role they play in my life. So it's coming to a point where I'm having to avoid certain things, avoiding going on Twitter, avoiding going on Facebook, avoiding certain situations or conversations, just to try and get through a day without going to a total low. And you have to take the little positives and sort of little victories from a day. You know, doing this video today, I'm going to feel positive for doing it. Like I said, I won't be 100% happy with it. I mean, I'm not ashamed to tell you, you know, it's taken me probably about 15 attempts to get this video right, because I feel it's such an important issue. And although a lot of people think it's a lot of me babbling on and rambling, you know, I think it's important to share this with the world, as I said, and to sort of educate people, and help people understand what it is really like. Like I say, this is just from my own personal dealings with depression. Hopefully a lot more people will be doing videos like this with other mental illnesses, and sharing their stories. And I think the one thing, I didn't really want this to be this is how to deal with depression kind of video. I just wanted this to hopefully be an insight into the life of someone who suffers with depression, and whether that's been helpful to people or not, you know, will remain to see. But if there are people out there watching this, as I said earlier, who feel they're struggling in life but have yet sort of accepted that a mental illness is part of their life, or haven't yet spoken to people, then don't be afraid, because it's a lot less rare than what people think. There are a lot of people, I unfortunately don't have the statistics on me at the moment, but there are more people out there than you think suffering like you are. And that, I found that out when I, started talking on Twitter about being depressed, and the amount of people that sort of messaged me, either with support or messaged me saying that they're going through the same thing or have gone through the same thing. And it definitely does help to talk with people. There are days where you feel like you don't want to talk to anyone, but just kind of try to force yourself to do it, as tough as that is. I know how tough that is. There are days where I can't do that, but just try and go out there, and whether it's talking to someone, doing a vlog like this, speaking to someone, or just writing it down in a diary or some kind of notes, just to let those feelings out, really does help. It's hard to explain why, but you definitely do feel better after it, even if that is just for a short amount of time. So I hope that this has been helpful to some people and insightful, and like I say, I hope there's a lot more people out there doing the same thing. I know there's celebrities out there supporting it, sports people like Freddie Flintoff and Clark Carlisle that have done programmes about depression in sport. That sort of brought it to a wider audience, and people like Stan Collymore, he's spoken very openly about his battles with depression, especially on Twitter. So a lot more people do seem to be talking about it and getting the message out there, but it needs to be more for people to really understand and help with all these issues. So hopefully this can be a small part of that, and in helping people. So yeah, that's all I've got to say, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed this in one way or another, or can take something from it. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.